Welcome to Seen This bonus episode where we are going back to the future.
Marty! You've got to come back with me! Where? Back to the future!
What does that mean? We're doing a rewatch of an older movie, and the movie we're going to launch off with is a 80s classic, just celebrated the 40th anniversary of The Breakfast Club. This came out February 15th, 1985, so just before all of our times, older than all of us. But the fact that it's 40th, it's getting close. But yeah, this movie really was great. Written, directed by John Hughes, familiar with Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. That's his movie. Yeah. Ferris Bueller's Day Off. That's him. 16 Candles. He wrote Home Alone. He has a cameo in this movie. I don't know if you guys caught that. Maybe we'll get to that later to catch that. And it stars Emilio Estevez, Molly Ringwald, Judd Nelson, Anthony Michael Hall, Ali Sheedy, and many others. But those are the main cast, the kids that are on detention. Do you guys remember detention? Were you in detention a lot in high school?
What's a lot? Like? What's a lot to you?
Well, you tell us in 1 year, how many times?
More than once a year is a lot of detention.
Then I was in detention a lot.
I don't know that I was ever in detention in high school, but I know in junior high I definitely was. We had a crazy vice principal, and I won't say her name.
Detentions for everyone.
Yeah, no, like she was pretty aggressive on handing those out, but I don't think I ever did in high school.
I don't know if it was different in the 80s, but this type of detention is more like what we had as like Saturday school, like school on the weekend, and you're there for like pretty much this whole school day. That's like detention plus when you really
but like for us, Saturday school was also like if you missed a day of school in the week, like you could use that to like get rid of your absence,
like a study hall.
Almost as
not
like
us. We had to pick up trash. We had to walk around campus and pick up trash all day long. That was Saturday school.
At least in SoCal, we had the sun, so you could be outside. You know?
I think at one point they had us like scraping the pavement, like those, like doing straight janitor work. And hey, Saturday, like, all right, everything's been done. You guys are scraping the cement.
Free labor.
Yeah, we will.
That's so funny.
Adrian and I went to the same high school, so I can support that. But I did go to a private Catholic all-boys high school my freshman year.
That's where you got turned out.
Turned out.
I went to Damien. I was at Damien.
You went to Damien? That's crazy.
Yeah. Against my wishes, but my folks thought a private school was a better education. But what a shit show it was in class with a bunch of adolescent boys. Priest also taught English, may or may not have been under the influence. I don't want to get in trouble.
We've heard plenty of stories.
Yeah. I didn't experience all the stories, I'll say that. But detention there was really interesting because you would have to be like a office administrator. Like you hung out in the office all day and then you like just go run errands, like take notes to different
classes.
Gopher.
Yeah. More or less. But that was only once. So this definitely takes place in the 80s, high school, and these 5 different kids are on detention. Thankfully, I believe in physical media, so I popped in my Criterion collection. I can't wait till you guys get into the Criterion collection. A lot of good shit there. But I have it here in the back, and inside they got this great little booklet, and you've got the brain, the athlete, the basket case, the princess, and the criminal. What category did you guys fall in?
Brain.
The brain?
And the criminal. For some reason, I was both.
I'm dead. Probably the athlete.
The athlete? Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Definitely in high school, for sure.
Yeah. I think I kind of floated around in high school. Like, you know what I mean?
Same. Like, a lot of people knew me for playing soccer and for playing sports, but I like during lunch, like I didn't really stay with one group of people. I kind of like to hop around. And
it's funny that we relate like lunch to what defined the cliques. You know, like who did I hang out with at lunch specifically?
Well, and it was hard too because our school was so big that we had 2 lunches. So like if you had like a certain class for fourth period, you went to first lunch, and if you had a different set of classes, you went to second lunch. So sometimes you didn't even get to hang out with the people that you wanted to.
And was that for like the whole year you kept that? Or
Yeah, it was for
oh,
the whole
wow.
year.
Wow, that really like kind of defines relationships and
Yeah,
friendship.
it really defines who you hang out with.
Yeah.
Mm.
Okay, interesting.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. We only had one lunch, right? Or did we have a second?
Nah,
We
we
just
just had one
like,
lunch.
break,
Yeah,
then
we had
home.
break and then
Yeah.
lunch. But in between periods was like a break because you had, 5 to 10 minutes to get to class.
And some people had a buffer on that 5
Yeah,
to
it
10
just depended
minutes
on
and-
which teacher you had. How cool you
Yeah.
were with them.
I had a teacher aide 5th period after lunch senior year, and then an open
Nice.
6th.
So did I.
So oftentimes I didn't even go to my PE aide class, and then like the teacher there, shout out Miss Hulk comes to mind, but I think that's a different PE teacher. But nonetheless, she had to tell me, hey, you've got to come to some classes here in this last quarter. I was like, all right. So
I was a TA my senior year after lunch for biology, but his classroom was next to my old anatomy teacher's class, so I just ran them errands like during that time period. Shout out to Mr. Wilborn and Mrs. Scullin, dude. They were like the coolest people. They're the people who got me into science too.
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Science is one of those things in high school I really was not a fan of, but now that I'm an adult, I'm watching all the Neil deGrasse Tyson fucking videos I can find. Been on it. Yeah. So this movie, as mentioned, is very well known for setting the template for like a angsty high school, kind of pushing back against like parental authority. It's funny. We used to have a friend that we'd go over to their house, and when a group of us were hanging out, and we are just kind of talking about things, like maybe talking about a girl or talking about, something relatively close to emotional, our friends would come and say, "What's going on here? You guys having a breakfast club?" Shout out the Quintanas. But yeah, this movie got 0 Oscars, which is very surprising when I looked this up. We got 8 categories for you, 8 awards that we're going to be giving this movie. And the first category is the Will Smith at the Oscars. Does this still slap?
So much stuff.
So good, it makes you want to slap your mama.
Does this movie hold up? Is this a movie that, would still appeal to the younger generations and still holds up? What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know how like relatable it is. Like you said, it's very like this detention was definitely set and something that happened in the 80s versus I don't really think that this would ever be a scenario that a group of 5 kids got themselves in. Do I think it's really fun to watch like as a nostalgic movie? Yes, I think that it will always hold up for people. It'll always like have a comforting place in people's hearts. Definitely can be like a bridge or like a bonding moment between you and like an older family member, an older friend, anything like that. But yeah, nostalgically, yes, it's a movie that still like kind of hits to home. As far as like relatable, no.
Adrian, you came out quick with a no. You don't think so?
Did it ever slap? Besides being like the first, was it ever really considered good? Like, I know.
You are.
I've been watching your like letterboxd and stuff like that. Like you ranked it pretty high, or you rated it pretty high, 4 stars, I think. And I would give this thing like 2 stars. Yeah, it's not good. And to be honest, well, I got more stuff to talk about. Like, I just don't think it ever slapped. Like, it's not. It's not a super bad. It's not a Dazed and Confused. It's not. And I get that maybe it was the first of its kind to like it opened the door for those, but
you don't give value to that.
I do give value to it.
Like, going in blind and creating this template.
Yeah, and that doesn't mean the writing is any better. Like it's all bad.
Okay. Wow, that's a great way to get into
that is my hot take too.
Yeah, I was trying to think. I wish I would have we could have planned this better. I actually would have liked to have had Anthony record with us because he is younger and he's like in his senior year of high school. Like this is his age range.
It would have been like
So,
right up.
I
Yeah.
mean,
his stuff.
I thought about him when I was watching it, and I even thought, like, man, has he seen this yet? I wonder if he saw it when he was with, visiting Mikey. It besides the relatable issues that each kid kind of like talks about, I think how they talk about it and what they're saying is complete nonsense. And I think to them, like, he'd be like, I see right through this. I see right through Jamie Foxx. I could see right through these guys and like this writing. Like, it's just not.
I think that kind of for John Hughes to like do that though, it's very teenager, right? It's very like I've got it figured all out. I know how this works. This is how I feel about this. Like that's very very high school. Like to know that stuff.
A
When
blind confidence that like you're
yeah, that
older.
blind confidence because when you get older, you're like, I didn't know jack shit back
No, no
then, and I
shit.
still don't know it now. So, um, while I agree, I don't think it's like one of the greatest movies of all time. I still think it's a good enough movie. Like, there's some movies where I'm like, this does not deserve my time, and maybe, like I said, it might be like some of that nostalgia coming in with this movie. But yeah, I think it's still decent.
I think it's relatable adjacent. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
the brain, these stereotypes have adjusted and evolved a bit. Like I was thinking, like, okay, Anthony, for example, where would he fall under? Because he's a bit of a brain, but he's also an athlete in the sense of like what he does with like musical theater, like you talked about on the previous podcast. Maybe a little criminal, but
How did you treat people that were in theater in high school?
Me? I was in a play.
And how
in,
did you
middle
how
school.
how did you partake with those type of people? Because that's Anthony. It's a different vibe. You're not really judgmental on that kind of a like sense, but on some
Right. I see.
you know what I mean. I feel like
It's evolved over
Right,
that time. I think there's different. I mean, bullying and being a dumb kid, I think, is always going to be a thing. It's just who's getting picked on and what kind of interest they focus
what they're
in
getting
on
picked on
is what's
for.
involved.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what's going to evolve. Okay, so this movie doesn't quite slap still. Hopefully, like Will Smith. Gladiator 2 unnecessary sequel. If there was an unnecessary sequel to The Breakfast Club, what would happen?
She would be pregnant.
Molly
Yeah.
Ringwald's
Yeah.
Yeah, like, are we talking about a sequel where it includes these kids as, like, it's their next year in school and then it's the new environment? Or is it, like, years in the future?
Tell me, what's the best
It's
idea?
like-
So
Like,
watching
we're the
it, I
sneak
thought
one.
that they were like all seniors, kind of a thing. Like I looked at it thinking, oh, this is their last year of high school. So I would say continue it like it's their freshman year in college, or what their first year
think about
out of
that.
high
Okay,
school.
so,
And what they're gonna do. I would
got
say
it.
Molly Ringwald's character is pregnant with Bender's kid, and she's trying to like wrangle
Or,
him
like,
in.
where
The wrestler maybe got a little scholarship to uh
so
a
unrealistic.
good school.
Ladies,
You know what I
listen
mean?
up. You cannot fix him.
Yeah, that's the thing too that I was wondering if it would.
It is not your job to fix him, okay?
I think that's the part where they try to like fit in that perfect bow tie ending where like the bad.
Well, yeah, because like he got the girl, but the girl's not really his. You know what I mean? Like he just had just enough to like get her guard down, kind of thing. I would kind of like to see like a different crew of people, but like they maybe try to top what the last kids did. You know what I mean? So it's like a constant, like it becomes like a competition, like a legacy kind
So
of
like
thing. Where
like Degrassi. Like
yeah,
class.
almost like that. But like, it still has to be like that corny 80s movie where it's got like the perfect ending and like, yeah, you know what I mean? Like
Or
everybody
it could
got a
even be
piece of the
generational,
angel.
like you have the '90s version. Or
Yeah.
okay, there's potential, but don't do it.
But like unnecessary, you know what I mean? Like we don't need a sequel.
Unnecessary. It's fine. The Chip Whitaker from Flight, No Fly Zone. Have either of you guys seen Flight?
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
it's
Denzel,
been a
right?
like a long one.
Lands the plane upside down.
Yeah.
Yeah. Incredible movie. Robert Zemeckis, like a hell of a flight crash.
Do you think he should have
scene.
got like penalized and like
Gone to
yeah?
jail? I mean, I think so.
I mean,
I
if
mean,
he
I don't want
wasn't
to
drunk,
spoil.
he wouldn't have landed it the way he did, and he would have killed everybody.
Well, the argument is you shouldn't be a drunk
You
pilot.
can't. Yeah, that's
Just
the
because he was drunk, he
you
saved
can't make that
everybody.
argument.
The
I
conundrum.
don't know. Tough beat.
Can't make that argument.
Tough beat. Right. Oh,
That's like telling a procrastinator, like, you know, if you would do it earlier, you would get a better grade. Well, you don't know that because look, I just got an A on this assignment that took me 2 hours to do before it was due. You know what I mean? You can't. That's not an argument. It's not admissible in court for sure.
yeah. There's
Judge won't let that
practical
fly.
law and theoretical law, and practical law is the law of the land. So, what didn't age well in this movie? The No Fly Zone. What didn't age well to you guys?
I
Anything?
mean, there were a couple of things that I noticed, but other than that,
What? Like what?
Like an administrator yelling at kids like that doesn't
Okay.
age really well, you
That's the
know.
bull. You get
so
the
I
horns,
wouldn't even
you
say
know?
yelling at them,
But
but,
you know-
like what he did with Bender, like and like trying to get him like throw a punch, like just hit me one time, and if I
Yeah.
catch you out in the street, like just wait, like what?
You don't
Yeah.
think that happens anywhere though? You don't think?
No, I
No,
don't.
I'm sure that it happens.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure that no, I honestly think that it has happened in the past, and like that because there are certain people that are not in the profession that they need to be in, you know, like they have no business in there. And I think that while maybe not this exact thing, like I'm sure that there's been times where kids like, let me meet you outside this
I mean, we see
school when I'm,
videos
like-
of teachers and students.
So I would say
Yeah.
the kids are probably doing that more than the teachers, in my mind. Like
Well,
that's
yes,
what was the hard part.
100%. That's not to say no
Who's
to
the
kids have
antagonizer?
ever-
Seeing the teacher antagonize it like he was the bully, you know what I
I
mean?
did not like
I don't know that you get that nowadays where a teacher's being a bully, especially
That did
because
take
there's
well.
cameras everywhere, you know? That would not be happening.
Next up, we have the M. Night Shyamalan twist ending. What's a twist ending you would have liked to have seen in this movie? Is there some way you can incorporate a twist to this story? Well, they do make a joke early on with the janitor Carl, right? About when he's like, hey, you know, and he's like, oh, is that your dad? You know, it'd be interesting if they did incorporate some kind of familial twist.
Yeah, like it was his uncle or something like that.
Or maybe like, you know, I don't know.
Or a older brother, older cousin,
Maybe
or
even
something
the principal
like
is somehow related in a weird dynamic, and they play like the politics of
that.
of
Yeah.
you know, and
Yeah, that'd be a good twist where you'd be like, oh, fuck. Like, they're actually
like you can
family?
kind of tell maybe favoritism's going to one of them, like one of the kids is getting off a little bit easier, and then you find out
Yeah.
something
I think
like
at the end, if you know, like the principal, I don't know, if the principal got caught with the weed instead, and then, or the teacher, if he gets caught with the weed and like gets like arrested at the end, I think that would be a trip.
or maybe the teacher and Carl get caught like in the closet
Yeah,
getting
yeah,
high.
yeah, like Carl pulls out a doobie
Right.
and they, you know,
Like, They
Yeah.
confiscate their weed, yeah.
I thought you were gonna say, oh, you know, Kathy Bates from Waterboy shows up.
I'm dead.
That's my point.
But that's the wildest thing, though, is like they're essentially hotboxing the library. And you're going to tell me that the principal comes back and does not think anything's going on. Like, that would smell.
Yeah, we have I have an award for that a little bit later regarding nitpicks.
Yeah, me too.
No Country for Cold Takes, meaning we need some hot takes. Adrian came out the
Yeah,
gate
yeah.
with this movie.
That's my hot take. That is just a bad movie.
Okay. Erica, do you have any hot takes about the movie?
I wished that, I don't know. I kind of felt I didn't want Molly Ringwald's character to dress up
Allison.
Lily Sheedy's
Yeah.
character. Like I thought, because like that's not her. You know what I mean? Like she was at the point, especially being like a liar, like people who are like compulsive liars typically know a lot about themselves. That's why they lie. So I just wish that wasn't. I wish it would have been like reversed, where like Ali Sheedy's character influences
Like a Grease?
Molly Ringwald a little bit more.
What do you mean?
Where she was a goody two shoes, and then all of a sudden she comes out and she's in leather and going after him. You know what I mean?
So that wasn't the girl's influence. That was to show Danny that she was willing to like step out of her comfort zone. I just wanted Molly Ringwald to be the one to maybe like be a little bit more darker than the other way around.
Sure. I agree. My hot take is close to that, and it was that I thought Ali Sheedy's character, who's also named Allison in the movie, looked better how she originally looked. You know, the whole point is to have that, you know, she's all that moment. Granted, they probably got it from this. But yet to your point, like I think that's something that hasn't aged well, especially
it goes from black
now.
to pink.
Right. And you got to wear what you dig.
Which, like, looking back at anybody who was like goth, punk, or anything like that in my high school, like some of the nicest and most down to earth people like you'll ever meet in your life. So it's like you don't want the opposite of that. You want them to stay true. You know what I mean?
100%. Be true to yourself, folks. Be true to yourself. There's people out there for you. Next, the Winona Ryder, I'm stealing this. Best prop to own. What's a prop costume that you would have liked to take from the set?
The earring?
Yeah, I was gonna say Judd Nelson's the earring that she gives him.
Nice.
I like that we were both like the earring.
The earring.
Or the weed.
Just
that. Either way.
Not as a souvenir. I'm low. I need to read.
Yeah, I'm low. Let's go.
The PBRs that you're drinking? The empty cans of PBR?
Yeah.
It'd be tough to prove that it's from the movie. You just got some PBR hanging around.
Right.
I'd go Emilio's jacket. He's got a pretty back in the day 80s
Letterman jacket.
What do you call it?
Before with the patch or without the patch?
You gotta have the patch. I
mean, she rips it off at the end, like keeps it.
Yeah, the patch and the jacket is separate. But I think what I would actually want, if there's a point where Ali Sheedy's character is holding a Prince vinyl, I'll take that. I'll take that. Add it to the collection. Next, the Castaway recasting. Who's someone that you would recast in this role? You can do either from that time, or if you could just place someone back into that time, who would you go with?
I would have recasted Bender, and I would have went with like a Benjamin Bratt. He would have probably been about 20, 21 years old about that time. But he had enough of like that badass gangster that would have been a little more believable, but also I think could have been comedic at times and be vulnerable where he's getting beat by his dad.
And he would also qualify for an award we have coming up as a little tease there. But okay, Benjamin Pratt. Eric, anyone?
Benjamin Bratt.
Isn't it Pratt? Benjamin Bratt?
Yeah, with a B. B as in boy.
You're right. There's too many Pratts around. I'm getting mixed up. Sorry. Benjamin Bratt. You're right. Erica, anyone?
No. And I think it's just because like I've seen this movie hundreds of times. I'm used to seeing the people on. Like I don't think that anybody's really replaceable in this movie.
I mean, these guys were like, they created the Brat Pack along with other teen stars of the 80s. And I think you could potentially bring someone from, that group in, maybe like a Rob Lowe to play the Emilio part.
No, see, like I don't know, but maybe it's because I just love The Outsiders so much, so I've like seen all of them in those characters, and then Pretty in Pink, seen Almost Fire, like all of them, right? You've seen like all of these films, and like looking back at them, I really can't imagine anybody else in those.
Yeah, I'll
roles.
give you one since you've been a big fan of hers. Demi Moore as Millie Ringwald's character.
Because at that time of the movie, she would have been mid-20s. She would have.
Yeah, she's right.
No, so like even you could pick somebody like
know,
nowadays and like be like, oh, that's
to me. That's before G.I. Jane.
I think,
Yeah.
but I think something that stands out about Molly Ringwald is obviously like her red hair, and I feel like that's kind of almost like an aesthetical symbol of the
Well,
movie,
like her red hair, she was very like delicate, so she could play like prissy like she did in The Breakfast Club, or maybe like a little bit more low key like she was in 16 Candles, where it was like she was like the background sister, not like, you know what I mean? So I don't know, I just couldn't really see
That's
anybody
fair. That's fair. I
filling in those
mean, listen,
roles.
this movie doesn't necessarily hold up to the test of time, apparently, but I think the
right.
cast is a huge part of its success.
Mhm.
Next, last category, the Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito in Twins double feature. What's a movie you would pair with this one?
Dazed and Confused.
A Dazed and
Confused,
I
that's
feel
a
like
good
Confused.
Dazed
one.
and
Richard
Confused
Linklater.
is about the 70s, which is a different time, but it was just a better movie. I could watch Dazed and Confused. It still holds up, even with some of the things that aren't accepted today. Still, you understand that it's of the time. You can tell that it's in the 70s. You understand. So I think that was a better movie. Same kind of concept, high school rebels without a cause. You have, the jock, you have all the stoners, you have it's a good movie. I think that one
Yeah,
definitely goes with it.
that's good. That's a good one.
Yeah.
I think what's interesting is Dazed and Confused and this and The Breakfast Club are very different, like, type of movies. Whereas Dazed and Confused is very much like a vibes, hanging out, life, life and times during that time. Whereas this is like a
Yeah.
movie about therapy. Really, like, if you talk about it, it's like these people that have a lot of these teenagers that have a lot of pent up anxiety, pressure, everything, and they have a moment of outlet to their peers. And so it's a little bit more intimate
Yeah.
in that way, but Dazed and Confused is definitely like a good double feature because maybe you want something more uplifting and funny, good soundtrack. So yeah, good call. Erica, you got one?
I'm gonna come out of left field with mine. I am gonna pick a horror film that specifically deals with the 5 categories of teenagers. And I'm gonna pick Cabin in the Woods. Um, by far, and I've said this before, one of the best horror films of all time. Combines horror, comedy, but it specifically deals with the concepts that were set by Breakfast Club. So you have the athlete, the scholar, the virgin, all of these different characters, where really the groundwork came from the Breakfast Club. And like you said, like this traditional, like high school, combination of people who are going through something. And I think that Cabin in the Woods, like, really leans into that and like explains, like, yeah, this is a staple for what goes down in these types of scenarios and
Yeah, good
films.
call. I mean, that's a fair call. In a different genre, and I'd
Yeah.
say definitely fun. I'm gonna go with something that I think is a little bit more contemporary. Lady Bird. So
Oh,
Lady
okay.
Bird deals with a small town high school young lady who lives in like Sacramento or like the outskirts of Sacramento. Uh, and
Mhm.
we focus more on her perspective versus like multiple characters, but you do meet the different kind of classes of people. You have theater kids, and it plays around with some of those tropes. But it's a really sweet, well done reflection movie.
Yeah.
I think us growing up in the
Mhm.
burbs of LA, there's could still kind of relate to that a little bit. It's not the burbs of Sacramento,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, right.
Lady Bird's one of probably my favorite Greta movie that she's made so far. All right, let's do some awards. We have the Julia Roberts and Pretty Women. You Made a Huge Mistake Award. What's the biggest mistake in this movie? The biggest nitpick you have that just, if it was gone, would raise it up a star in your book, Adrian?
Emilio Estevez coming out of the library hotboxing, and he's
Oh,
doing like
hotbox.
cartwheels and all jacked, and it was the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Like the worst.
I have the same exact. I've never seen someone come out of a hot box looking like they just injected some roids and did a line of coke. You know, he just came out swinging.
I would have loved if it was just like it panned to him sitting in a chair, like
Yeah, like it's all in
Right.
his head.
Okay.
Kind of funny. Like this is on his head.
You're like, hey, trying to get his attention, and all of the dancing's what's going.
Yeah, and I think like if
We're
you
doing
could,
a-
can you hear me? Are we good?
Yeah, it like froze, so I don't know if that's gonna.
I think it's
be-
gonna record what you said.
Okay, hopefully.
You're a little delayed now, but I hope you can still hear us.
Okay. I can still hear you, but is it like really delayed?
It's like a good second for you too, Adrian. Like
yeah,
is
she had a
Erica
little
delayed?
delay.
Okay, should I leave and come back?
Sure, try. I think we're okay.
Okay. Well, like your response isn't that
Okay,
delayed.
now I think it caught up. You didn't look delayed.
Okay. I was like, wait, you're like answering me in real time, dude.
I think you should just leave, Erica. I don't know. Something's happening. Okay. Anyways, what was I
Erica's biggest
saying? We were.
nitpick.
That is recorded too, so these are gonna be like good little
We'll keep
snip.
it.
You could cut these and be
We'll
like,
keep it all
look at our
in.
technical difficulties.
Yeah, this is internet, baby. Nitpicks. I have the same one. That was just insane. But I do like that idea of it's all in his head and he's just that faded. Because there's a few like musical moments
Yeah.
kind of like very 80s. But if you wanted to justify it in like realism, it's like they're just faded and like this is what's happening. You know,
Yeah.
I like that. Did you have a different nitpick or anything else, Erica?
No, that's definitely mine too. I think for us too, like all being stoners, we're like, that's not how that goes.
Like the first thing I thought was like, oh, that's the one I'm taking for a nitpick because that's not how that happens.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm very excited about this award. The John Leguizamo, this movie needs a Latin award because we anticipate a lot of movies we do for our Back to the Features may lack Latin folks we want to represent. So, Adrian, you mentioned you had someone in mind, or are you going with Benjamin?
No,
Right.
so I did it a little different. Like if we were to cast somebody, like if we were recasting this movie now, I would want
Okay.
like a Michael Pena, because he can be that serious, like, but at the same time comedic.
What character would you give him?
I would have him as Bender.
As
Really?
Bender. Okay, so you got two Bender replacements.
I
Okay.
really just didn't like Bender. I really didn't
You
like
don't like
Emilio
Judd Nelson?
Estevez, but I mean, he's more believable as a wrestler in high school than I believe Bender was. You know,
So you didn't think it was a good job by Judd Nelson, or you just
I
don't
didn't like the character, to be
the-
honest. So I think if they had something like where Michael Pena brings his own type of flavor, where it is a little more comedic and not so much just I'm, a hurt little boy and I'm gonna damage everybody else in my wake. I don't,
That's exactly how a high school teenager would
Yeah,
act.
not considering everyone else.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not even thinking about it.
Erica, do you have anyone?
Yeah, I think a young Pedro Pascal would be absolutely fucking hilarious in this movie. But I would want to see him play Anthony
Brian,
Michael
like the
Hall's
nerd.
Oh, nice.
character. Yeah, I think it'd be really funny to like see him as like this little square who like has a fake ID so he can vote. Like I think that would just be
Yeah,
so
that is
funny.
funny. What do you have
to
a
see
fake
him.
ID for? So I could vote. Like, and he says it's so
I
matter
can
of
vote.
fact.
Duh.
Duh.
Like it's so natural.
Gotta vote.
Yeah.
So I have one for you. I think I'm really excited about this one.
Oh, no.
S.A. Morales. Now, the name may not click right away, but it's
Okay.
Bob from La Bamba, if you want to just real
Yeah.
quick reference. I think him as the Judd Nelson as Bender would be real
Okay.
interesting. Like, he has obviously a bit of, this sounds really bad. I was going to say spice. I don't mean that because he's Latin, but he comes with an edge. He's really great in La Bamba.
Mhm.
I'd argue, my hot take maybe is he's better than what's his name, plays Richie Valens, Lou Diamond Phillips.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, I think him as Bender would be really interesting. Because I think he can be like angry and troubled, but also we can empathize with him. So,
Hmm.
well, they all get an award. This is our first one. We're going to be generous. They all get the John Leguizamo, all the Latins added. The Samwise Gamgee Most Underrated Character Award. So this goes to the character in the movie that is probably underrated when you look back at it. Who's a character that really stood out to you guys that doesn't get a lot of shine? Brian's character, Michael Anthony Hall.
Yeah. Yeah. I think he's just like so like for me, like he's the funniest one, like his little comments, but it's like he doesn't mean it to be. Like he's actually completely serious about everything he's saying. So like some of those moments are just like actually really fucking hilarious. Like when he gets a B or like oh, like I said, he has a fake ID to vote. Like it's just like so genuinely cute.
Yeah.
I think he's the
that's
glue.
why.
Like
But
he
I don't think
genuinely
he-
like holds the group
Yeah,
together
he
when
doesn't
he's like,
need
"Will we
to-
still be friends on Monday?"
I mean, he's really a lot of what's pushing that like emotional undertone of what the movie's really getting,
Yeah.
And the fact
He's the only one that it seems like can be vulnerable because he's so used to being honest about what his actions are. You know what I mean? So like I think it's just like so easy for him to be that role.
Yeah. And I mean, he's also the most extreme case where, he talks about bringing a gun to school and,
Mhm.
I don't want to step on an award later. But I think for me, I'd go with, Ali Sheedy's character, basket case, if you will, because he's the one that's
Yeah.
kind of pushing back against everyone that like knows who she is. To your point, Erica, earlier, like it's unfortunate that she changes to comply with like societal norms or whatever, right? Because she's the one character
Yeah.
that seems most secure with the issue she has, or at least the most like in touch with them.
Like understands, like accepts, kind of acknowledges that they are there and like doesn't she's like, yeah, it affects me, but like so does everything else. You know what I mean? Like she's not afraid to like tell them that.
And she does the classic potato chips in the sandwich move to give that extra crunch.
Loved it.
Like I have to admit, right, as that scene happened, I paused the movie and I went to Jersey Mike's and got myself a sandwich.
But even in that scene, I feel like Brian's character sets that whole scene by staring at her like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll give it to Brian. We'll give it to Michael Anthony Hall, most underrated character award. Who, funny enough, if you guys seen Edward Scissorhands, he plays like the bully boyfriend, Winona Ryder's boyfriend in that movie. And it was so shocking to see him
he's
in
the one
that.
that gets
Well,
killed at
that's
the end, right?
right.
He's like the big
Yeah,
bully,
yeah.
like kind of the jock, which is really
Yeah.
interesting that he got, cast in that role. The daughter in Hereditary. There's a great award. I gotta deliberate better. The daughter in Hereditary oh shit moment award. For those of you that haven't seen Hereditary, just know there's an oh shit moment award. For those of you that have had it, you understand why we named it this.
You'll know exactly
what
what
we're
it
talking
is.
about. So was there an oh shit moment relative to this movie? I don't think there's anything as extreme as that.
Yeah, I don't think it's extreme, but I think like when she does lie to Ali Reedy's character does lie to Molly Ringwald's character and kind of gets her caught up, and she's kind of like gets pissed about it. You're like, ah, shit.
Lies about like having sex and not being a virgin. She's like, I'm an
Yeah.
info. I love having sex.
I would say
And
Bender's confession was more like
About his
traumatic.
dad.
Yeah, about, well, how's it at your house then? Oh, well, it usually goes like this, and it ends up with him getting his face punched in. And then
Cigarettes.
yeah, and then Emilio Estevez doesn't believe him.
It's funny because he like pouts and like does this like monkey
Yeah,
crawl up the
yeah.
stairs and then pouts. And at first I was like, who would do that? But then I'm like, a fucking
No,
high schooler. That's
see,
like,
you're tripping. No,
Yeah.
they do not.
yeah.
I feel like you guys are out of touch with high schoolers. Like, let me tell you, I have two.
I just left a job where I was living with 40
you go.
high
I mean,
schoolers. Well,
How
yes,
many
I
of them?
get
How many of
very
them
in
climbed
touch
the
with
thing
it.
and pouted in the corner?
I have had multiple kids who will pout in the corner and who will like look to the
Yeah,
side, like,
dude.
are they paying
Kids are
attention
assets.
to
What
me?
do you mean?
Like, yeah.
Yo, you're lucky and your children
You're lucky that you have normal
are
children.
like, art school and like have, a little bit more tact. But yeah, nonetheless, I thought
Maybe that's why there's no Latinos in this movie.
No, we know Latinos that act the fool too. It may be a little differently. There's the climbing joke in there somewhere, but I won't go there.
I'm dead.
So I think my oh shit moment was when we find out that like Brian had a gun and was essentially going to kill himself. That's kind of like, oh shit, like this movie kind of got real serious. And then it does a good job of like kind of breaking that tension with a joke afterwards. But yeah, I think we can go with either the gun or Bender, because I think you kind of, now that we're where we're at now, and we're older, we kind of expect a kid that's acting out like this probably has shit going on at home. Like we know that, but I think
Yeah.
like as a high schooler being told this from someone, like kind of a big serious
But
moment.
Emilio Estevez says it in the whole, like in the beginning, like cut it out, waste oil or something. Like we all have issues. We
Like you
all
don't
have
matter.
stuff. Like
Yeah. Some of us decided better. Yeah.
you think we all, enjoy being at home? Like none of us like our home life. Like what do you guys like? That's not nothing news.
Next, this one is the Rocky Balboa Gut Punch Award, the most emotional scene. Did you guys have one for this?
I would say that this one for me is the Judd Nelson scene, just because it's always like, it's so hard, because remember how we're talking about, teenagers think they have it all figured out. I mean, I'm sure we all thought we had it figured out at that age, but like you just played to where Emilio Estevez character, like we all got stuff going on. It's like, yeah, but like to have the one person that you're meant to like rely on beat you and like essentially claim you're a waste of space, like no matter what you're going through in high school, like I could never imagine
It
going
made my
through
kids
something
better.
like that. Like that, I think.
Telling them they're a waste of space. They're the fine men.
Mikey just got done complimenting them.
Shoot.
It wasn't
I'll give
luck.
the compliments. I'll say it was Ross.
But yeah, that one, I don't know that any of these scenes actually make me cry, but that one was definitely like a little gut
I think they're
wrenching,
interchangeable.
You
like
don't want to hear that about
I think like
going
the
through that.
gun at like Michael Anthony Hall breaking down, like just before he even tells them what happened, and then also Judd Nelson's are like those can be
Or with the
interchangeable.
teacher, or when he's
Yeah.
like confronting Bender in the closet, and he's locking him in there for some reason. Like that's okay to lock a kid in a freaking janitor closet.
Didn't age
But
well.
when he's like tempting him, like you're gonna be a waste of life, you're not gonna be anything, and in 10 years I'm gonna see you out in the street and I'm gonna knock you out, kind of thing. Like
Pretty aggressive. The Coleman Domingo Best Dressed Award. Who had the best outfit? Who's the best dressed character
Bender.
here?
I'm an Ali Sheedy gal. Like I wish I would have had the courage to like dress moody.
How did you dress in
and
high school? I don't remember. What?
Honestly, like I was a sweats and a sweatshirt kind of
It hasn't
gal
changed.
because, or like yeah, that's not exactly, it has not changed. But just because like with sports, like it was just easier to like not have to wear jeans and stuff if I wanted to look nicer if it was hot outside, obviously. But like I wore a lot of athletic gear.
Did you ever have like an emo phase? Like I feel like that's what the relation or the same for our generation.
Yeah, so like all of like when like all of like the emo punk bands like in the 2000s came out, that was like 7th and 8th grade. Well, like more mainly like 8th and 9th grade for me. Like I would wear like the skinny jeans, the Vans, the Converse, the band tee, the
You're like an
plain buff
AFI kind of girl.
jacket, like yeah, AFI, yeah. Outfits. But like all of that, like back there, like Good Charlotte, AFI, every Fall Out Boy, Panic at the Disco, like you name it, like I was listening to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I initially was gonna say Bender for best dress because when he comes in, he's got that like pretty nice
leather jacket
coat.
Oh, the wool coat.
It's like
on top, right?
Yeah, the wool
like
coat.
the trench coat.
Over, and
Yeah.
he's got the scar.
Yeah.
Like his entrance is the same as the way the movie ends. I don't know if you guys caught that. Like he comes in walking as the car passes, all
Which
done up, and it leaves.
that was another nitpick I have. Like she's just gonna like give this boy a kiss and an earring, like while her dad is sitting right there in the car. Like
Yeah,
I would
never have it.
I'd be honking. Like hell no.
yeah. You got a couple of years left still to go to worry about that, but can't wait to see how that goes.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll give it to both of them. Everyone gets an award for this one, Bender and Ali Sheedy's character. New director, who this? Who's a director you'd like to see their version of the Breakfast Club. Is there anyone that came to mind?
Yeah.
Go for it, Erica.
What are you gonna say?
Mine's gonna
Adrian, you go
be
first.
like off the wall. Who's the director that did like The Waterboy and Happy Gilmore? He's Adam Sandler's like director. In Happy Gilmore, he's like the
Oh.
commissioner.
Frank
No.
Karashi? That's the director of
Okay,
Waterboy.
Happy Gilmore.
Hey, stand by.
I know for
No
sure he was
problem.
the director of Happy Gilmore.
Dennis
That's the guy.
Dugan? Dennis Dugan. So you want to see a
I want to
Dennis...
see more of a comedy. I don't feel like this was a comedy, and I think it was meant to be somewhat of a comedy. And I don't think it was a comedy at all.
You'd rather have more of like a slapstick humor high school movie. I mean, kind of like Superbad. Superbad's a comedy. Yeah,
But you see the emotional depth, and you see like they're just still kids. Like that was more realistic than him screaming and showing his scar and then run. Like people that are damaged aren't gonna like show their scars. You know what I mean? Like he's hiding it. That's why he's bullying. Like when you have a complex, you don't really know that you have a complex. You just do the things you do. So the fact that like he knew he was, hey, I'm gonna go pout in the corner, drove me insane. Like no, even a high schooler that with actual issues isn't gonna explain his issues, and then when nobody understands, go sit and cry.
So might as well have it be funny. Yeah. Erica, you had someone in mind.
I will disagree with you that I don't think it was meant to be a comedy, like outright. I think there was meant to be like comedic features about certain things to like help lighten it, but I'm not sure that I would ever classify this as a comedy necessarily. But I actually am gonna go along the same lines as you, is that I think I would have liked to see a little bit more comedy. But I, as a combo director, so I'm gonna have two
Ooh,
co-directors, but like a Key and Peele, like I would love to see like their take on
Well,
it,
that's
to where it's like
interesting.
a little bit more of like that satire kind of comedy behind it. I think that would be
I like that. I
really
like
funny.
that. And a little darkness to it also.
Yeah, like a little bit like
kind of-
unspoken things, that shouldn't
definitely
happen.
not be an all white cast as well.
No. Boo, who cares?
I actually was thinking of Bong Joon-ho, the director of Parasite,
Okay.
Okja. I think he does a great, and I'm leaning a little bit the other way and going more like the.
I forgot he did
Yeah,
Okja.
because he has a sense of humor. Like even in Parasite, like there are very
Yeah.
funny moments without him trying to be funny, So I think it'd be really interesting to see his take on like a family dynamic, like he does that in Parasite, and kind of like put a twist to it. So that would be my vote. Last award we have, and the Oscar award goes to one Oscar. Who would get it?
Anthony Michael
Hall for his performance.
Supporting actor.
Okay.
Like I said,
Yeah.
like story,
So-
his performance.
Who would you say was the lead
role.
actor?
I wouldn't say that there's a lead actor in this. Like you wouldn't be
Mhm.
able to. Like they're all.
I feel like
leads
he
'cause
would
they
be the
all have-
lead because he's narrating from the beginning and he's narrating the end. And I think it's portrayed from in the beginning. It's supposed to be like, oh, it's Emilio Estevez writing this letter and reading it out, talking about it, and it's not. It's Brian in the beginning and Brian at the end.
It's interesting because I think if you're talking about like billing, it's Emilio. Like he's the top cast, like in the credits,
So
right?
here's
Yeah.
the part
But
of what
as
I
far
hated
as-
about like the movie, and when you guys say like it had a good cast, but was it already a good cast, or was it they became a good cast, or like they became good actors later? They were in good movies later on, and so it must have been a good movie because they were all in it like from the beginning.
I think they all do well
Uh-huh.
in their role. I think all the
Yeah.
the acting to me isn't an issue outside of like this genre and the 80s and like that style.
Yeah.
But it's a
You have to take that into consideration. Like you have to take the style of the movie into consideration because you are not going to get this life-changing movie from one of these classic 80 movies. You know what I mean? Like, it's not going to be life-changing. It's not going to be like, oh my God, like, I wish I could see that again for the first time. Like I said, I think it's more of like that nostalgic factor. But with this movie in particular, seeing it for the first time, it is kind of hard to kind of determine what you're asking, because we've already kind of like known and grown with these actors and different roles and everything like that. But like I said earlier, I can't imagine anybody else playing these roles because they did so well as their character.
I think there's a lot going on for nostalgia here. One, it's like Adrian said, the cast turned into all these actors that would be in so many movies, and we essentially grew up with, considering this came out in 85, right? I think also it's got a great 80s soundtrack. Like it's one of those things where you hear the music and you immediately think of the Breakfast Club, at least for me. And I think just we're literally going back to the 80s. So there's a lot of like a bygone era that I think makes us like a comfort food almost as far as a viewing experience for an all-time classic, for example. I'm willing to go Michael Anthony Hall for one Oscar. I was going to go the director, writer, John Hughes, but I think the fact that we've kind of picked some things apart.
I wouldn't have given John Hughes an award for this movie. Like, if we did another one of his, like Ferris Bueller, like maybe that would have given him, like, if this was the movie we were doing. But for this specific movie, no, fair. I wouldn't have given
Michael Anthony Hall, congratulations on your Oscar. You're saying this Oscar. Well, maybe we need to give it a different name. We'll come up with our own name award.
Yeah, because we're not an academy of old white guys voting.
Feedback I got about your comments, Adrian, on Nora being all white men voting, so they must have voted for Nora. A clarification: all men would have voted for that movie, not just all white.
I don't know. I don't know.
And all
I wouldn't have voted for it. So,
wow, you're the exception to a lot. Of things.
Right, you're the outlier.
Americans would have voted for that movie.
Sure. And they did. And they voted for a president. Anything else you guys want to talk about here for the Breakfast Club? We covered quite a bit. This turned into a much longer episode than I expected. So thank you, listeners, to listening.
It's always happened.
Anything else? Breakfast Club.
No, I think
Happy
that's
40th.
They're saying it's a
Happy
good
40th.
movie. They never say the Breakfast Club man himself. They always say the Mighty Duck man himself. He didn't get famous from this movie. He got famous from the Mighty Ducks.
He must have had his power of his peaks. This was an early Emilio. I would say his peak is Night at the Roxbury. That's Emilio peak. Shit. Mighty Duck Man.
I was like,
He was there.
I'll have to look up when that anniversary is, and we'll do that.
Yeah, plenty of movies this year with anniversaries.
Good ones.
It was between this movie and The Sound of Music. So if you haven't seen either, check them out.
Write in the comments if you're like, Michael, why didn't we do The Sound of Music? That's what Erica wanted to do. Let me hear it. We want to hear it.
It is what Erica wanted to do.
Listen, Pisces season's at the end here. You know, you've had a great run.
First of all, no, it's not. Second of all, you haven't even seen The Sound of Music.
We'll work on it. Thank you guys for listening and watching. You can see all of our content at seenthispod.com. You can follow all our socials, Instagram, Blue Sky, Letterboxd, Seen This Pod, Instagram, seenthispod. I hate that I have to clarify that each time. I got to see what I can do about that. And make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Really helps us a lot. I appreciate you guys. We're over 100 followers on Instagram. We're almost to 40 subscribers on YouTube. Each and every one of you are important. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode. Stay safe.